Woo! Welcome back, guys, to another tutorial here from Tutorial for Fitness. We've been gone for a couple of weeks, but we are back. Today, we are covering the infamous Kipping Ring Muscle Up.
Now it's Rich Froding with a chance to possibly catch up with Josh Bridges. Froding is through 3 now, 4 reps of his 12.
Play intro.
No.
Now, before we get down to business, there's a thing we need to address. There's 2 different types of ring muscle ups. There's the strict form and the kipping version. They are both very different. The first one, the strict, is for upper body strength. The second one, the kipping ring muscle up, is for intensity and efficiency, which means that in a set workout where we gotta complete a required amount of reps, we wanna do the most efficient technique that enables us to do the most amount of work with the least amount of energy expenditure to get the task done. In this case, using our hip to create power is the fastest way to do the kipping ring muscle ups or the ring muscle up. Now that's a point that's usually getting misunderstood. So now that's clear, without any further ado, let's get to it. It's important to point out that you need that fundamental base strength before you start doing any sort of kipping movements, and the kipping ring muscle up is not an exception. We usually say that for you to start doing your first kipping ring muscle up, you need to have your first strict ring muscle up. If that's not working for you for some technical reason, we can say that you need 2 strict chest to bar pull-ups or 6 to 7 regular pull-ups. This is only for safety and to ensure that you have the correct or the right amount of shoulder strength to protect the rotator cuff from all those swingy movements that has quite a big impact. Now, the first thing we're going to cover here before we actually get into the high rings, we're going to go through some positions. You need to recognize what these positions are and to make sure that you understand how they feel. Because if you don't, how are you ever going to do a swing and get through that scary part, which is the transition through the rings, if you don't know where you're going? So that will be the first part now, the bottom of the dip position. So it will look like this. So Dora, she's in the rings. She's in the bottom of a dip position. Shoulders are below elbows as per standard of a dip, and it's most likely this position you're going to catch your ring muscle up in. Next step, Dora is going to jump to the top of that ring dip. Go ahead. Elbows are extended, and she's going to keep the rings close to the body without letting them flying out from her body. In terms of the grip on the rings, when we do the kipping ring muscle up, we're not going to have a false grip like we do with the strict. We're just going to go ahead and have a deep grip in the ring, meaning that we don't want to have the fingers pointing up like this. We want to rotate inwards a little bit so we get an angle in the wrist and a deeper grip in the palm on the ring. So it's going to look something like this. It might slide down for you, but you're definitely going to have a lot of the grip inside the hand and not necessarily so much in the fingers. The next part we want to cover, guys, is the swing. So before you can get your body up into the rings and start the dip phase like we just showed, we need to practice creating the momentum which happens in the swing when we are below the rings. You want to swing like a long straight plank, and when that feels comfortable for you, you want to add in a little hip hop, which is in the end what's going to bring your body up into the height of the rings. Dora did the swing, she implemented her hip, and automatically her body went higher and higher, bringing those rings closer and closer to her hips. And once that happened, then it's time for that super explosive sit-up motion that brings your body from a parallel angle in the ground to a vertical, and you coming through the rings, transitioning into the bottom of your dip. So this will be the first step, going into the transition of the swing into the bottom of your dip position. The first one actually being the first step that we take when we want to do a strict ring muscle up as well. But it gives you a great idea about how the feeling is getting through those rings coming up from under it. Dora's going to stand with her toes planted in the ground under the rings, lean back, elbows full extended. She's going to pull to her chest, and then as quick as possible, do a quick sit up, transitioning herself through the rings, keeping the rings nice and tight and close to the body. And this is what it's going to look like. Reverse down, down again, full extension, pull to the chest, head through nice and fast, and reverse down. Good, and relax. On this next part, we're gonna use a band, preferably a purple or a green band. The purpose of this part is to add a little bit of intensity to the transition. The band is gonna be responsible for bringing you up to the rings, but you still gotta do that quick, fast, aggressive transition into the bottom of your dip position. You're gonna put one of the ends on the ring, just go through like this, and then just loop it through so it attaches like this. And on the other side, you're just gonna grab it, holding it like this. You'll be standing like this, you're gonna sit on the band, and the band is then gonna create that bounce for you. All right, she's gonna show, let's say 4 reps. We can call them touch and go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice, and you can see the last rep, it got pretty tough for her. Just getting through those rings every single time and catching the body between the rings in that position. This was your second version. Now we're gonna go into the third. Now the last step of the transition will be to actually do the swing and having a partner underneath helping you with a little push in the butt as you come up going into the transition. The way to progress from this is obviously the guy helping, he will help less and less, putting a bigger requirement for a more aggressive hip hop to get the required height to go through the rings. Dora and I we're gonna demonstrate this now. Make sure that before you start, you communicate with your helper about how many times you want to swing before he actually helps you up. 1, 2, up. Now, as you could see, we did not put a dip on the muscle up, simply for the reason that we are practicing small parts now. If you put a dip on all these small transitions that we're doing, you're gonna tire out your triceps before we even get to the point where we're gonna put it all together. And that's the next step. Now, to go from the practice that we just did to actually getting your first successful muscle up, and that is basically just the transition. Getting the dip should be considered the easy part. To go from the practice of the 3 methods that we just showed you into actually doing a muscle up can take anything from you getting it on the day you practice it to several weeks to several months. It all depends on how you are as an athlete and how quick you adapt to these movements. Of course, a good strength base is the perfect recipe for getting this movement fast. Now the next step now is to go from getting into the transition and implementing a dip. There are 2 styles of dips that we can do, just like the muscle ups. We can do them strict or we can do them kipping. Strict is basically just to perform a strict dip into full extension over the rings, or you can choose to do a little knee pop underneath to help bring your body up. I'll present both of them right now. Now that you got your first muscle up, congratulations. But the next step is to string multiple reps together. Who wants to do 1 muscle up when you can do 10 or 20? So to go from one and transition into another, it's actually pretty easy. It can be quite scary, but the first and I would say the most efficient way of doing it is to lean back. So from the top of your dip position, lean back into the swing and go for that second one. Another option you can do is simply just do a reverse dip. So from the top of the dip, you reverse down and go into the swing. It's less of a momentum carryover than from top, but it's less scary. Now you gotta pick one of those 2 and drill it. You gotta keep practicing your muscle ups every 4th or 5th day or so without overdoing it. And down the line, half a year, 1 year, you'll see yourself doing 10 to 20 kipping ring muscle ups.
Thanks for watching, good luck with your muscle ups, and see you in the next one.